Welcome back to Football Daily, where today we have Sam Matterface of TalkSPORT fame. If you've watched football or heard football, you'll have heard his voice, isn't that right?
Well, I don't know. Depends which channel you watch, but probably.
But I've heard you pretty much everywhere recently.
Okay.
It's good to have you on the show. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for coming.
And of course, Football Daily's very own Patrick McKenna.
Hi. Yeah. How you doing? Good weekend?
Good. Do you commentate on anything? Didn't think so.
Nothing's
right.
been published.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's harder than it looks. First of all, we should talk about Euro 2016, and obviously some very serious issues surrounding this right now politically. And someone was saying on The Guardian, someone was saying on The Telegraph, suddenly football's taken on a different kind of significance with this England-France game. Isn't that right, Sam?
I think the whole tournament has taken on a different significance. I mean, the show must go on. I mean, I think we all have to get on with the tournament and get on with the football. I think that the French players have said they want to play tonight. There were conflicting reports about that this morning on one of the papers saying that they weren't consulted. One saying that they were. I think pretty much most people will agree now that the way forward in these circumstances is to plough on and prove that these events, these atrocities, cannot dictate how we live our lives. And I think that's certainly how the football community has responded to what was an awful tragedy, and heartfelt condolences to everyone that's involved.
I think what we can certainly say is that the gesture from the French team, because the German team, they couldn't leave the Stade de France because of the situation outside, and the French players, they opted to spend the night in the stadium as well, which I think was a really fantastic gesture, and also the decision to carry on with the tournament obviously is done certainly in the right spirit, I think.
Yeah, well, moving forward in 2016, obviously England are looking forward to going to that tournament, the expanded tournament of 24 teams now, making even more games, even more money, even more entertainment. Am I right, Sam?
You're old cynic.
No.
Well, I mean, it could be more entertainment, but it depends very much on how the teams approach it. I think it does give you a little bit more latitude, this tournament, because you've got the safety net of the third place teams. Some of the third place teams qualify for the last 16, and that means that you might be able to play with a little bit more gay abandon. I think that I mean, it's diluted, isn't it? I mean, 24 teams, 16 going through to the knockout stages. It means that only 8 are going home after the first round. So, I mean, you'd have to be pretty poor not to get through. England would have to be pretty poor not to get through.
At the tournament, are you ever going to use the phrase "the tournament starts now" when you get into the next stages?
Only on the opening day.
Okay, got you. Good.
I think. Listen, there's an appetite for international football. The reason it's there, the reason that people want more games, is because actually we all enjoy the World Cup. We all stop our summers and we spend a lot of time watching that. I mean, the audiences on terrestrial television for the World Cup last season were phenomenal, and they always are for these major tournaments. So the idea that there is more football is something that we should cherish, but the quality has to be there. I think actually when you look at the qualifying tournament this time, you know, a lot of the bigger teams that are expected to just breeze their way through because of the expanded nature of the tournament haven't found it as easy as maybe we would have expected. Yeah. As a result of that, it may well be that some of the teams that have qualified, surprisingly, I'm thinking about Albania and Austria, who have done very, very well indeed. Iceland and Northern Ireland too, who have gone from 5th seeds to winners of their groups, may well cause some shocks at the tournament.
It's almost a necessary step, though, isn't it, Patrick? Because we talk about expanding from just the power teams that are within Europe, the big sides that I imagine you look forward to commentating on. But then there is Albania, which is a fascinating story, and Iceland, which is even more fascinating, an incredibly politicised team, because the whole economic crash forced them to change their national game through essentially the necessity of getting rid of the players that were going to demand higher wages. So it's an incredible tournament, and we almost have to go through this stage to expand the amount of teams that are going to get better, right?
I think so. I would say, but a caveat to that, I certainly think is, I mean, the tournament in the past hasn't always been a respecter of big names, indeed big nations. I mean, Greece won it in 2004.
Big name. What's your problem?
Big name in philosophy, sure. Big name in.
Well, that's a big word in football now, Patrick.
Eurovision.
They were foreshadowing what Brendan Rodgers was doing.
But I'm saying it has been done before, when people used to argue that it was even harder tournament to win than the World Cup, simply because of the amount of absolute pish.
Yeah.
Well, you'd normally have more difficult teams in your group, no?
Mate, do you know Brazil are?
Yes, I've heard of Brazil.
Thanks. Thanks for coming out, Patrick.
No, you certainly won that hands down.
Yeah.
But what I was to say, it's very interesting that you're going to have a raft of these teams, as Sam says, who you wouldn't normally see at the tournament. I think this is the best ever British, or let's say if Ireland get through tonight.
So unlucky that Scotland.
Yes, I know, it could be a full set.
Well, I think sadly that's always going to be the case, isn't it? Where there's always going to be one that misses out, because very often they're going to draw each other in qualification groups, and that will end to one of them being eliminated. I noticed that even in the World Cup qualifying group next time around, England have got Scotland.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, you can just see that someone is going to miss it. There's going to be heartbreak. But Scotland have got a lot of work to do in order to get themselves into a better position going forward. And I think Gordon Strachan's already started to address that.
Let's talk about England's chances, though.
Yes.
At 2016.
Yeah.
Let's not look forward to the World Cup yet. I think that's a little bit too far ahead. But they obviously played Spain just the other night. It was sort of a hard game to draw anything from because, obviously Spain had those moments, but at the same time, England were missing a lot of the people you'd say were the key guys.
Still missing key players. Still, I think always when you look at friendlies, you've got to stop worrying about the results and start thinking about performances. What do you see from that player? Individual performances. Yeah. What do you see from Harry Kane? What do you see from Ross Barkley? Did he play better this time around? I mean, we had another look at Phil Jones. I still think we should be seeing more of John Stones in these games. I was surprised that his name wasn't on the team sheet when it came out.
Absolutely.
It was good to see Ryan Bertrand back in the starting lineup. I do think he's a contender for that left back role. It's a very difficult role to fill because of Leighton Baines' injury. There hasn't been a natural successor to Ashley Cole. And I do feel sorry for Baines because Baines' career sort of almost has come at the wrong time. He was probably a little bit too young to dislodge the experience of Ashley Cole. Yeah. And now he's probably a little bit old and England are looking further forward.
That's really interesting. Do you know, he's just on a slightly different time zone.
He just literally, his career has just been timed at an unfortunate period in that history of England left-backs. Gibbs wouldn't be your first choice left back, I don't think. I think he'll play tonight, Tuesday night. But I don't think he'd be your first choice left back because he's not even the first choice left back at the club. And he doesn't play off enough. And when he has come on recently, he's been playing a little bit further up. I think that Bertrand's established himself at a team that have played very, very well over the last few years. He's had a bit of an injury issue. He's back now. And I think that he could well be the England left back going forward. But the last game against Spain, you can't read too much into it. They're experimenting. England are experimenting. Tuesday night against France is going to be very difficult to take anything from at all because of the circumstances surrounding the game. I think what you have to do, though, is you have to keep an idea of what your first 11 is, but start trying to find some of the successors to players that are obviously coming towards the end of their career. And for all the talk about how Rooney has historically been excellent for England and for Manchester United, I cannot see at the moment, with the form that he is in, any reason why he should start the tournament.
Talk a little bit about Roy Hodgson, because there's a number of shows I've been on recently where people have sort of been saying, defensive football is popular right now, Louis van Gaal, those kind of guys within Europe, becoming a little bit more, not conservative, but you know what I mean by that. And some people saying that Roy Hodgson fits in that group, but it's not the scintillating football England fans want to see. What's your opinion on Roy Hodgson and what he's done with this side? Because it's fair to say he's steadied the ship.
He certainly has, and I think
is that enough?
He's tried. He's been given. Well, he's certainly got a free swing at Euro 2012, didn't he? And he's almost like he's probably got more chances than England managers are defined by their tournaments. First and foremost, do you qualify? If you don't, you're sacked. Mm-hmm. And then your legacy is how you perform in a tournament. Roy Hodgson seems to be a very unique England manager that we've had in maybe 30, 40 years, who's had time to sort of bring a generation through. Sure. And Greg Dyke did actually describe the end of the cycle is Euro 2016. So this is ultimately what he's going to be judged on. You see by first of all taking you in World Cup 2014, making decisions that are generational on players that aren't necessarily on the best person for that job. In some ways, someone who's going to get experience by playing that game. But I actually thought it was underreported maybe that in the first half, England did have plenty of chances. Harry Kane, as I think someone mentioned earlier, did play poorly by virtue of the fact he had chances that were there to miss. So England could have gone into the break at least a goal up.
Halfway house, small C conservatism at points is what some people are levelling at Hodgson in the FA.
Well, listen, he took over a disastrous situation. Fabio Capello was incredibly unpopular amongst the players and amongst the public. He did have a free hit at Euro 2012. They played terrible football. It was awful to watch, but they got through to the quarter-finals and they were eliminated on penalties. They were very close to getting through the semi-finals of that tournament. As ridiculous as that sounds, I mean, it could have happened, on another night. At the World Cup, it was better, but it was only marginally better.
But your face says it all there, doesn't it, Sam?
It's slowly but surely getting a little bit better. But he's had to recycle a whole squad twice, and what concerns me, And I think it's not really, there will be problems that Roy Hodgson has. He is a conservative manager. Fans of Liverpool will tell you what they think about him, but fans of Fulham will give you a completely different view, and so will those at West Bromwich Albion. The fact of the matter is he usually takes over a middling club and makes them overachieve. England
then, perfect.
Dangerous territory there.
England's problem is they don't have the pool of players that they have had in the past. I was talking in the car on the way back the other day from a game and thinking about some of the players that would have got 50 caps easily in 10, 15 years ago if they had been players that 10, 15 years ago they're playing now 10, 15, 20, 30 caps, but only got a handful, 1 or 2, because the pool was much stronger. Jesse Lingard's played 193 minutes of first team football for Manchester United, and he's in the England squad. Eric Dyer's in the England squad, Dele Alli's in the England squad. Players that I think have got great talent, but have they got the experience to deal with international football just yet? And are we putting them in too early? Because should they be playing more Premier League games before we get to the point we're calling up to the national squad?
And under 21s, of course, as well.
Do you think? I mean, because that's the point, really, is that some
too
people
many.
are saying
There's too many at this stage. I mean, the squad won't be of that makeup when we get to Euro 2016. There's no chance that you'll have all those younger players in. But the fact that we're getting to the point where you can only put in those younger players because there isn't anybody else, or it's perceived that there isn't anybody else.
There are some interesting sides that are looking to go off through the playoffs. Yes. Sweden in a beautiful new kit. Looking though, we want to see Zlatan finish his international career in the Euros, don't we?
I think Zlatan deserves to play at a European Championship, deserves to play at a major tournament as he signs off for Sweden. He scored a very important penalty, took a wonderful free kick. I don't understand really how Denmark are competing with Sweden, because Denmark, and I've seen them a couple of times during the tournament, apart from Christian Eriksen, are a very ordinary side, and Sweden should have a little bit more than that. But they too are going for a change. I think it's it'll be a fascinating game, that second leg, between the two rivals, two teams that are separated by a bridge and a little bit of water, and it will captivate both nations. Zlatan's been a major international figure in football. He's always said probably more than he's done.
That book, yeah.
But I think he's a superstar. I think he's a superstar because of his personality, and there's not enough of those in the game. And I think it would be good to see him at the European Championships for sure. Denmark, I don't think. Listen, I could do without Denmark at the European Championships. They don't do it. They don't add anything for me. Christian Eriksen's a great player, but apart from that, they don't really add anything for me.
Not better than that.
No.
But Bosnia do add something, don't they? And it'll be interesting to see another side from that region again making it into that area. They've already got Albania there. We could have seen more sides that had, obviously Serbia's a bit of, you include them in the same sentence as Albania, but that's the difficulty, isn't it? Is that let's see what Bosnia do. They've got an incredible team.
They've got a couple of fantastic players. I think Deco has now got 8 goals in 8 games. For Bosnia, and that's going to be the problem for the Irish tonight. I've never hidden my Irish bias on this programme.
You can't with that face.
You can't, can you? All being called Patrick, obviously. Yeah. So obviously I'll be hoping the boys in green do it tonight. However, they're right. They've got to stop Pjanic and they've got to stop Dzeko, and I think that's they've got.
I'm just thinking of that fog.
Oh yes, the fog. Yeah. Well, they sort of certainly saw an opportunity there, didn't they, Ireland, and they took it.
Yeah.
I think Visca, the wide right player, is a danger man, and I think that there was a discussion after Stephen Ward played on Friday night that they may well change and bring back Mark Wilson, who's often a left back, often a central defender, but has definitely played a lot more football than Stephen Ward has at Burnley so far this season. Visca was a real danger. They went on the front foot in the game in Bosnia. I'd expect Ireland to be a lot more aggressive in the match against them tonight. I think mainly because they'll have the option of having 2 of the strikers that weren't available on Friday. Jonathan Waters is back, and Shane Long has declared himself fit to play, and that will give them more of an attacking thrust. I think the crowd behind them, the energy behind them, and the knowledge that for 1 or 2 this is the last opportunity to play a major European or world tournament, that will carry them through.
Moving on, and this was a game that I'm sure every commentator would have loved to take on. I was there. I was with David in the tunnel. I was actually filming with David Beckham this weekend.
Yeah.
What a
treat.
What a treat.
Oh, awesome.
I can't tell the stories. Lovely guy, put this together, obviously. He's just played, I think, 5 games on 5 continents. incredible story in general, lovely guy to interview, etc., etc. But the pull and filling a stadium of Old Trafford, just the whole achievement of this was incredible. But the two sides, amazing.
Yeah.
It was incredible. I thought there was the British and Ireland team look a lot fitter than the rest of the world.
Ronaldinho, although Ronaldinho still playing.
Tried to chip Seaman like twice.
Well, so did Paul Scholes.
I've got the
although Paul Scholes was against
Raymond
van der Gaal, so that's a little bit different.
Didn't the first? I tried to do the first half as well, didn't he? To Van der Sar, he attempted it twice as well. Listen, it was a bit of fun, wasn't it?
It was. Not
but
finicky,
but it was an interesting game to watch. And one of the things that I think, sort of when we were talking about England a little bit earlier on, one of the things that caught me was, I mean, the crossing ability of Beckham.
Yeah, still.
Is unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Do you mean Brooklyn or David?
David. I mean, I actually thought that Brooklyn did quite well when he came on for the final 15 minutes, and it was certainly something that the crowd enjoyed. But I thought David Beckham's crossing was excellent, as it always has been. The way he moves was superb. He's still obviously very fit. And Paul Scholes, I mean, it's pure class.
What a header that! He just landed on his head. It was beautiful.
He still is, though. He's still. Yeah. I mean, when you watch, I mean, I've never actually watched a game live at Old Trafford's pitch side.
Right.
This was a fantastic experience.
Yeah.
I love Old Trafford. And saying that as a Liverpool fan, that's awful.
It was a wonderful atmosphere, and there was this sort of bizarre nostalgia of these kind of players in the 10 years. Almost at work.
He was good. He was good.
At walking pace, do you know what I mean? And then doing all the stuff that you'd imagine. But also, it had that kind of, obviously, because it was a charity match, it had a very different sort of demographic in the crowd. So the sound of the crowd and the atmosphere was different. Do you know what I mean?
I've done a couple of those.
There's lots of fun kind of atmosphere.
And Old Trafford has a history of it. We've done Soccer Aid there a couple of times, and that is a unique atmosphere as well in that regard. But of course, in that game, you've got a lot of celebrity players as well as the ex-footballers. Yeah. This game was full of quality everywhere you looked, and you know, I think that was one of those moments where you look back at that game and you thought, that's what we maybe took for granted 10 years ago.
Yeah.
The quality of the player. I mean, we have not got that resource now, and it was fantastic. Fantastic.
Moving on and going to a club who are equally happy and full of stars. Chelsea.
Yeah. I mean, this is just on the back of Cesc Fabregas in the newspaper today saying...
What did he say?
He's having sleepless nights about Chelsea's form. He's angry about Chelsea's form. And this is what you see after the international break is coming to the end. The Premiership stories start moving again.
You looked good for Spain, though, didn't you, Cesc?
Well, he got an assist. He got an assist, didn't he?
I think it's fascinating that this story has come out today. It's obviously it's to do with the fact that they've caught up with him in Alicante and had an opportunity to speak to him afterwards. And it's all very. I'm losing sleep over Chelsea, and I can't understand what's happening. I keep looking back at it and thinking that the performances are good, but we're not winning the games. Well, you know, I'll tell you why you're not winning the games. You in 21 assists and 4 goals in your first 28 appearances last season. You've got 3 assists and 1 goal, and you're following 19 games. They've lost 9 of 19 matches this season, and he's got 2 assists and 2 goals. But, I mean, he has been utterly appalling now, nearly for a year. I mean, that's 38 games in which he has delivered 5 assists. I mean, that is his performances since Christmas last year have been poor. So if he's having sleepless nights about the rest of the team and why Chelsea aren't winning games, maybe he needs to have a look at what he's doing, because what he's not doing at the moment is he's not working hard enough. That is a major issue. They're playing him at number 10 because he's a liability, playing at the base of the midfield where he was so good and effective last season, because he can't get back and tackle, and he needs to put that.
Well, they've shipped Ramirez in, haven't they, to sort of do that job?
Had to,
yeah.
Because the back four's getting no protection. Yeah. Now it's getting a bit more protection. They're playing a lot better. There's no doubt about that.
He got an assist for Spain, though, didn't he, for one of the goals? So I mean, it's
something
still
when
there.
You want to play, isn't it?
And it's
that's going to happen every now and again. It's a different shape and a different team.
Yeah, so. I do agree. I do agree with this. I think when you do go away with the international team, you do have a slightly different press around you. Do you know what I mean? And it's a slightly these stories.
He's home and he literally goes to the press and says, "You'll never guess what I have to say."
Well, no, I do think these stories do tend to come out in international breaks and things like that. Sort of unhappiness and things get mistranslated, whatever. But I think. So something's still working for Cesc Fabregas. I mean, he could do it for Spain, but you're absolutely right. I just think it's maybe a confidence issue. Just that looks like
a friendly game against England, where England have got like a second team out, but a depleted team out. I mean, let's be honest about it. I mean, he didn't win. He was big part of the Barcelona team, but he wasn't at the fulcrum of that Barcelona team. No. He wasn't the fulcrum of the Spain team that won the back-to-back 3 tournaments in a row?
Yeah.
3 tournaments in a row.
Triple Corona, yeah.
And at Chelsea, he was the main man for half of last season. But after Christmas, he was a liability for them, and he has been a liability now. He needs to. He wants to achieve and become one of the biggest players in Premier League history, or wants to be one of the legends of Spanish football. Then he needs to actually step up and perform himself.
Well, thanks a lot for watching Football Daily Weekly. It's been lovely to have you guys, and of course, Sam Matterface as well. Sam, if people want to go find you on Twitter, where would they go?
At Sam Matterface, if you want to follow on Twitter, you can watch the ITV highlights programmes, or you can listen on TalkSPORT.
ITV Highlights is actually my favourite show on television.
Right.
It's got good commentary, but also the pundits they get are better than any other channel.
Right, who's your favourite?
Good question. It's probably Sam Matterface, I'd say. Anyway,
Roy Keane, I think, holds his own.
Yes, yeah. Philip Auclair as well. Lovely, really good guy. Anyway, we'll see you again real soon on Football Daily.